Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With, an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Wherever you're listening from today, hit the subscribe button, and if you can leave a rating or a review at places like iTunes or Podchaser, I'd be very grateful of that one as well. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today my guest, Spiritualized, talking with Jason Pierce, a.k.a. Jay Spaceman, about the new record, And Nothing Hurts. It's themes of aging and the influence of their anniversary tour behind Ladies and Gentlemen, We Are All Floating in Space. We also get some thoughts on if there will ever be that reunion of the Spacemen 3. It's Kyle Meredith with Spiritualized.
Hello.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
First off, though, these couple songs that we've heard so far, they kind of came out of nowhere and just blew me away. It's some of the most beautiful work you've done yet, which you've got an amazing catalog there, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Strange, because I got so close to it, like you kind of do when you make a record. I'm finding it hard listening to it, or it's nice just to let it go. A friend of mine said it belongs to the universe now, and it's kind of nice. It's a nice feeling, but it's strange to have people say they love it, and I just seem like I know every tiny detail of it. I know it so well that I can almost get no pleasure from it, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, I have heard you say that it wasn't an easy album to make. What exactly? What was the reason for, because of that?
A kind of stupidity on my part, I think. I kind of ran out of money fast trying to pursue something that didn't work, and then found myself trying to piece together I'd always wanted it to sound like a Columbia Studios recording from the 60s or something and I found the way I could do that, at least initially, was to just record little parts. I'd go away and record the timpani, or I'd go away and record a glockenspiel. It's been said, I think people have misunderstood something, that I recorded it all at home, and I recorded a lot of it at home, but anything that wouldn't go up the stairs, I went to the studio to record, and then pieced it together, so I'd have drum rolls that I would kind of piece into the songs that I was trying to write. And really, if I thought about it, I would have written the songs and gone to a studio and put that together in some way, but it was never played live. There's never been a time when we sat in a studio and played those songs, and it seemed like a kind of, with hindsight, everything becomes obvious, but at the time it seemed like the only way I could do it was to do it in that manner.
To go along with sort of what you were saying a minute ago about, not being able to listen to it, I mean, when you piece it together like that must really affect how you hear it, probably, because, I don't know, it sounds like it's a very disjointed way that you might hear it versus the way I hear it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I kind of hear the faults in it, and the things that I was trying to correct, and the things that didn't work, and it feels like I've had all my pleasure from it. I've pursued every avenue that wasn't going to go anywhere just to know it wouldn't work like that. I've tried everything, and it just... I was saying earlier that I had this thing where I think that I've always thought that the session recordings from the Brian Wilson Smile recordings are so much more... They're so superior compared with any finished version of that record. And I kind of feel like I would love people to be able to hear that of this record, that just the sound of the bass, the upright bass and the timpani and the funny little Casio keyboards and stuff, and it seemed like I had to make a choice between that or the song, short of abandoning it, and the song always wins, but it feels like it's I don't know, I just think more than any record, it just seemed like I'd chosen the wrong way to try and piece it together, and eventually that will all come around and I'll listen to it like one day it'll surprise me, but at this moment I seem like I'm complaining. I shouldn't complain, it's still the best thing in the world to do, but it seems like I found a really difficult way to do something that should have been so simple.
It's an interesting form of demoitis, I think, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of that as well. Obviously, there's all the kind of... Everybody falls into the same things with music. It's a kind of... And it's odd that you kind of distance yourself from music to be able to do it. I find it really hard to listen to other people's music when I'm making a record. So to enable me to do it, I kind of turn my back on the thing I love, you know. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff that goes down that you think you're never going to get again, you know. You're never going to. You kind of want people to hear all of those moments in a record, and obviously that's not how people put out records.
Well, luckily, you know, in this digital age, if you ever just feel like on a whim one day releasing the other version of that record, you don't even have to press it. You could just put it out there.
You know what? Now I'm kind of free again. I've been looking at things like that, just like I've been working with some on the ends of the little teasers that we did, just little loops of things, and I think there's you know, as much as I want to, you know, I'm doing other stuff as well, but I've been putting together some little bits like that, so you can kind of hear the content of it in a different way.
I'll bring up the album title, of course, And Nothing Hurt. I want to assume that is the tail end of the famous Slaughterhouse Five quote with "Everything is beautiful and nothing hurt." Is there a direct tie or bit of inspiration from that?
Yeah, of course. It's not. It wasn't unaware of that, and that's why it's kind of. I like the fact it begins with "and." I like it the way it presupposes something before. You know, there's one of the songs on the album that begins with the word "and," and it allows for anything. You know, and there was a lot of this album that I was trying to write about time and experience, and kind of I feel it's hard enough making a record at any age, but at my age, I feel like it really the only reason you make a record is because it should be there. You know, it's not. There's no excuse for pretending you're a kid and writing kind of lyrics that you should have been writing when you were 23. You know, I feel like it had to be something that reflected who I was and where I am now. And I like Vonnegut. I like that kind of sarcasm and cynicism and the kind of wit that's in those lines.
I feel like I'm probably stretching here, but when I saw that, aside from the Vonnegut quote, I remembered your song "Stop Your Crying." There's a line in there: nothing hurts you like the pain of someone you love. You know, if there's a way to thread your catalog together, I don't know if you ever even considered that, but it's there.
They're all there. Actually more than one person. Many people have accused me of writing the same song for the whole of my life, and I don't disagree, you know. Like a lazy artist guide, you know. But, yeah, I just think there's themes and there's things you can't get away from, you know, and it's just, however much I try, and I do try, you know, and it just feels like I don't want it to sound like the last thing I did, but I also don't want to push it into some place where it doesn't fit just to make it different, you know. I think it's too easy to be willfully strange or to say, okay, this is going to go, I'm going to push this into some kind of corner where it doesn't want to go. And in a way, the records have become more traditional, if you like, in their form, you know. They're more like country songs. They're more kind of, there's a kind of tradition to them, you know.
I would actually say it's an unfair assessment about you doing the same songs because, you know, to take a track like "Ladies and Gentlemen," then "Do It Again" and "Hey Jane." I mean, those are three very different sounds, you know, that I've enjoyed. Although, and I do use that as a preface to say "A Perfect Miracle," that is one of the nice things about it. When I first heard it, it is reminiscent of "Ladies and Gentlemen, We're All Floating in Space." It's not hard to get to that. And I'd wondered, because of the anniversary shows of that record, if there was a bit of that influence, because I've heard you say that you did think about reworking some of the songs from having been on that tour.
Yeah, and also I kind of feel from it. It wasn't the album so much as the live shows, that there was some kind of immense power and glory of playing those songs, and this kind of feeling like it was coming through the roof. Somebody else was stirring it, you know, and it felt like I wanted to try and capture that and on the new record, but not literally. I found out only 2 weeks ago that if I play "A Perfect Miracle" one tone higher, it sounds even more like that track. But it passed me by, to be honest. I didn't ever think, you know. Maybe I should have stepped back a little. But when I was doing it, it felt like it had no real reference to that.
While we're here, I don't want to take away from the new album too much, but you did do that record in full on tour, and you've got so many great records. Do you consider now, as the anniversaries start rolling up, is that something you'd be interested in doing with the other records?
Not really. No, not. I mean, I've got a new record. You know, I'm not something I was looking to do. It seemed like more so that playing those shows allowed it to sort of push into the record we're doing now. You know, so it's certainly not anything I'm thinking about. Those songs will become part of whatever show we're doing now. There's no escaping that. It seems like a kind of, that as soon as you've got the musicians on the stage and you've got enough songs you can play, you can go anywhere with it. So, but no real plan to just focus on one tiny part of it.
Well, in the future, I mean, I've definitely, as a fanboy, there are other albums of yours that I would love to hear in full. But, and and I'll say that about this one too, because I really don't want to take away from "And Nothing Hurt." There's so many great aspects to this, visually as well. I mean, you come out and there is Jay Spaceman in a spaceman suit. It's hard not to look at that and have a bit of a chuckle. Although, there's a lonely look to the pictures, and I thought space is lonely, and so is Earth. And there's probably some loneliness in this record because of, the way it was constructed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, there was a video that we made, and there's lots of references. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's lots of references within that as well, that it's not just, there's lots of cues that were intentionally put in there. And also a kind of a nod to the past again, that the suit with it's the same suit from the Do It All Over Again video, so it's kind of, it was all, there was a lot of thought about the passing of time and wisdom and kind of stupidity and everything to do with the passing of time in this record, and it all seemed to make sense in trying to put that into a visual.
I love it when artists put that much thought into it, because they all don't. We don't get that lucky every time. But I know a lot of, there's been some talk in the past few years where you've said this very well could be the last Spiritualized record, and from what it seems like, you're almost kind of tying it up in a bow, by looking back and incorporating your past in the record.
Yeah, and I was quite sincere. I think it's harder to make records when you're older and not feel like you just. I think you shouldn't just put a record out because that's required. I think that has to be a good reason to make a record, and it has to say something more than just another record. It seems like, and yeah, there was a part of when we were putting it together where we were thinking along those lines, doing things, making reference to things that were and are important in this band.
The last two records, you didn't write them or at least record them under ideal situations. Medical battles on each one. Were you in good health on this one? And I asked that as much as a concerned fan. Did it make it easier this time to kind of get in a different headspace, not having to deal with life like that?
I said the other day I was almost praying for something like that just so I could get the hell out of there. It's just like, it seemed like a kind of, I don't know, almost like by allowing myself control over it, I end up in a room on my own, and I think there's got to be an easier way for me to put these things together. It seems like I'm the only one who goes the distance, and it just seemed like there must be an easier way to make something like that. And I kind of learned a lot about, maybe the process has got so much to do with it, that you arrive at that because of however weird or protracted the process is. That's the end result relies on that, but there was often times where I thought this should be so much easier than this. But yeah, I'm good. I'm joking about looking for that as a way out.
Well, if you don't do any more records, that doesn't mean it's the end of your musical career, though, right? There's still live shows. I mean, we should not expect retirement yet.
No, I mean the idea. I mean, I think this is where it starts to get good with this record, because I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do with the record live that will make a lot of sense. I still think that the Ladies and Gentlemen shows were they were certainly the equal of the record. I think the same with this. I think the record is just the starting point, and we're planning on trying to make the shows cover a lot of stuff that I would have liked to have done with the recording.
That's exciting. I can't wait to hear what that means. It's just vague enough to keep me baited.
Yeah, I wish I had more. I mean, it's early days. We've only just started to put in a few shows, so we start here and then kind of move from there. So it's not like I've got. I think most of this will happen next year now, but I think we've got a few things that worked for this year, and then we go into next year and start putting it together and seeing what works.
with these new, kind of career moves, is there any chance that you'll ever do anything with Spaceman 3 again?
Same old, same old. No.
Same old.
I mean, why? I've just got a record. It's always the same, isn't it? But I'm sorry to disappoint, but I just don't see the point. I find it really difficult as to why. It's a weird one because I think I'm not wild about anything that's like people just replaying their. I used to call it battle reenactment. Like the guys who dress up as the Battle of Waterloo and Napoleon's troops or Confederate armies and shoot it out for entertainment on a field somewhere. But I find it really odd that people would do that. But then I saw the Stooges playing Raw Power, and it was like the best show I'd ever seen. So, I'm not so against other people doing it as I thought, but I don't see me doing it.
Yeah. I know why a lot of us look forward to that, sometimes it's not nostalgia. Sometimes the band Belly, they still, they got back together, and what a great chemistry they still have. And I think that's my own curiosity, is what's the chemistry of that group of people like at this point in time? I think that's where I come to usually with reunion talk, I guess.
I'm not so bothered. I'm not so bothered to find out, I'm afraid.
That's completely fine. I'm greedy on the spiritualized stuff myself. I'm so happy that we have this record and Nothing Hurts. I'm such a fan. I know I'm throwing so many compliments your way, but I really do love the music, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about it.
Thank you.
All right, it's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for your time.
All right, bye. Thanks to Jay Spaceman, Jason Pierce from Spiritualized for giving me that call. The new record is called And Nothing Hurt. It is absolutely beautiful. Hey, YouTubers, hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with your favorite artists and interviews. And if you're listening to the podcast version, iTunes, Podchaser, wherever you're getting it from, a rating and a review would be huge. Then you can head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. You can also find bonus episodes of this series over there as well. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.